In this video, I'll be covering a whole bunch of updates around WingRiders, their token generation event, which is happening very, very soon, and their IDOs that are accompanying that as well. I have an interview with Liam and Karan on this episode to talk all about what has been happening in the WingRiders ecosystem, everything on the DEX, the voting mechanisms that are in place for their stake pools that are on their DEX as well, many, many different things. Let's get into it.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining me again on this podcast episode. If this is your first time here, please consider giving me that thumbs up, click subscribe, click the notification bell, and you hear more from me soon. Now, this is one of the first videos I've done in well over a month. I am a little bit rusty. This is take number 27 or something ridiculous like that. So hopefully this one goes smoothly and I get through it. Now, before I get into anything, if you want to find out more about the Learn Cardano podcast or find any of the reference links to this episode, you can find them on our website, this brand new shiny website, which I've just launched at learncardano.io. You can find everything there that I go through this podcast, all the learning resources. We have the podcast up there. We have courses coming as well. I know another influencer doing courses. I hate it myself, but it's a really good way to engage with the community. You can find out everything there that I've mentioned in this episode. Just find the links down below. Now, as for WingRiders, they've been doing a phenomenal job in the Cardano ecosystem. If you haven't heard of them, check out their website. But this is a couple of Medium posts that they go through in lead up to that token generation event. Now, the biggest thing about their token generation event is having those tokens in the hands and holders of the platform itself so that the platform users can have a say and perform governance within their ecosystem. So all that voting power that comes into play so that you can choose and direct the future of the WingRiders platform. So that whole decentralized autonomous organization effect comes into play because that's what they're aiming for. And you can read a whole bunch of really good Medium articles here. I think this one was by Karan. I'm assuming it's by Karan because he does a lot of the writing, but he talks about how important decentralization is to the WingRiders team. Now, another really cool thing that has happened for the team is that they've hit number one in terms of TVL, the total value locked in the Cardano ecosystem. So they're slowly jumping up the ranks and have finally overtaken MinSwap for that number one position, and they're doing a phenomenal job of it. Now, it's very fortunate that the WingRiders team have USDC and USDT on their platform because in a bear market, people tend to move their assets off to a stablecoin so that they can ride out the downward trend that we're seeing at the moment. So that may be a reason why we're seeing WingRiders being a number one TVL at the moment, because they have those stable coins. It's very attractive, and they're the only platform that do have stable coins on the Cardano blockchain at the moment. So if you haven't had to play around with it, I highly suggest that you go in and have a look at what you can do. They have quite a few trading pairs, etc., with that's on their platform at the moment. So you can have a look at that. Now, if we have a look at DeFi Llama at the moment, we can confirm those details here. So we can see the 7-day change has gone up almost 20%, and WingRiders is definitely there with market dominance on here at 34% at the moment. But of course, MinSwap is right behind them with Sunday Swap after that. Now, if we check over on Milcometer, the sidechain as well, might as well have a look at what's going on here. We can still see Occam at number one position, and then Blue Shift and Milky Swap just below. It's good to see Muesli Swap in there too. And they've actually also released the AMM liquidity pools too. So we should see some of these numbers increase as more people start using it. So back to the IDOs. So the WingRiders team have announced all three of the IDO platforms now. Now, during this interview that is coming right up, we only spoke about two of them because that final one here, DAO Maker, hadn't been confirmed yet. Now, at the time of making the video as well, none of these IDO platforms had actually launched the token sales yet, but at this point in time, Occam has sold out. So they had their sale previously, and if you check out on their Discord channel, you can see that it's the Occam sale has completely sold out, and we only have time now for Vent and DAO Maker. There are instructions on how to go through all of these sale processes. You can see here it went on the 28th of June. The time recording is the 2nd of July. So that time has passed. Now, if we look at Vent here, the sale date does say the 27th, But if you check on the event website, it still says upcoming, and I couldn't see a confirmation in the Discord channel at the moment to say that the sale had actually actioned and has passed. So it may still be in play. So if you're a user on Vent Finance, you may still be able to purchase your WRT tokens within that platform. So check it out, check out those details just to double check. But we also have the DAO Maker platform. So if you're wanting to use that, or if you already have an account in DAO Maker, you can do so and participate in their public sale on that one. And if you check on their website, they say that the sale is coming in 2 days, 7 hours from the time of this recording. So I'll put a link down below to our referral link if you do feel inclined to support the channel and do your purchasing through our referral link. So you do have an option there too. So if you want to find out more about any of those IDO sales, links down below on the show notes on the learncardano.io website. But let's get into this interview with Liam and Karan. We go through all of these different aspects about it and all these updates around the WingRiders platform as well. I have Liam and Karan joining me on this episode to talk about what's happening with WingRiders. The whitelisting of the token sale has gone pretty well. I want to know where things are at the moment, and they're back to tell us all about it. Liam, Karan, welcome back to the podcast.
Great to be back, Pete.
Yeah, awesome to see you again, mate. It's amazing we're all still employed, have some money, and have clothes on our backs and houses with the crypto market where it is right now, man.
It's incredible. Seeing all that red is quite depressing at times, but I know we're still here. We're still working, still building some amazing things. So Absolutely. What have you guys been up to?
Yeah, it's been crazy, man. So we launched, how long ago now? Let me work it out. So about four weeks ago, maybe 5, we sort of announced that we were doing our whitelist. A lot of this was on the back of, when we came out of stealth in sort of November, December, we had a very clear vanilla vision of what we were going to do, right? We were just going to go Card Starter, a couple of other IDO platforms, just bang them out, just do an IDO sale. We're not raising crazy amounts of money, right? We're a little bit under 10 million. We did half of that through our private and seed rounds, right? So the rest going out. We're not trying to be crazy. We've got a very clear roadmap of what our costs are. The funds we raised gives us a 3-year runway, right? And then by that stage, from transaction fees and all that sort of stuff, we feel that we'll be doing it pretty well. And and then Sunday Swap went on Card Starter, and that whole thing happened, right? I don't want to go into it and talk about those guys, but I went through a shade. But basically, there either was a contract or wasn't a contract, or the contract was very ambiguous, and then Card Starter didn't deliver some money to Sunday, and then I think it got tied up in court. So we were just like, whoa, all these guys that we thought were really clear, professional kind of set up companies, they knew how to do IDOs. We got cold feet, essentially. So we reached out to a few of them, we had conversations, and we were just like, oh. So it was our first round of pre-DAO voting. We ran it through the community, and I think our community was about 5,000 people in, a little bit less on Discord. And so we just said, we're going to push the sale a little bit. We're a little bit slowed down on the platform, but we're going to push the sale. But what are your guys' kind of thoughts on, direct sale versus IDO, ICO versus IDO? What IDO platforms do you like? And so from that, it was our most responded to poll. Right, more than 50% of the community voted, which is pretty good.
I can imagine.
And we got 5 platforms out of that. Off the top of my head, they were Vent Finance, Occam Razor, DAO Maker, and then the other 2 were I can't remember off the top of my head. Anyway, so those were the 5. So we were like, okay, and especially Vent, for example, that wouldn't have been one we considered, but they have a really strong community, and everyone gave them pretty good feedback, right? And so we were like, okay, well, we'll just reach out to those guys. And a significant portion of the people that we polled also were like, we prefer direct sales, right? We don't want to have to own tokens for some token platform just to take part. So we hadn't thought about that at all. So we spun that up, and we got a little bit of heat from the community because they were like, when we came out with our whitelist, Australia wasn't on the list, US obviously wasn't on the list. But I mean, that wasn't, people were like, why is that? It's because in a 2-month period, we went out and spoke to lawyers and were like, hey, we're going to do this own thing. And, we didn't have enough time, the luxury of time So we couldn't go out and get like a legal opinion in Australia. For those people who don't know, the Australian market's pretty receptive to crypto, but there was an announcement in our budget this year that they're looking at like new regulation. Further on down the track, the type of stuff that we're doing could potentially be regulated. So we didn't want to do a token sale in the market, and then that turns out to not be what's happening, and like we're sort of got to come back from that. So we're in this long term, right? If there's regulation in Australia in a year or 18 months, we'd like to be on the right side of that and be able to go through a sandbox and do all that, right? That's where we want to be.
Yeah.
The US obviously is super complicated. The SEC, a lot of projects don't sell there. Europe, all the countries that we excluded are all pretty much going through the same thing, which is the crypto regulation is changing really fast, right? France has just put through a new law. That's why Binance had to change their license. Yep. So we were just like, oh, this is like super complicated. We're going to have to go out and engage 5 or 6 different crypto lawyers and do all that. And so we just didn't have the time to do that. So we went with the markets we were comfortable with, and we got a little bit of shade, of people in the community going, I super love WingRiders, but now I can't take part. So we were like, well, you will be able to take part. You can go through the IDO platforms, through our platform partners. They've got, they're set up. They've got different distribution methods that we have. But yeah, for the whitelist. So the whitelist was pretty successful. I mean, in retrospect, with 2020 hindsight, we probably should have gone a month earlier, right? Because we just started the whitelist when the market changed. And there was a fair amount of people who were like watching their bags shrink. So we all know what that's like now that we're a few months into the bear market. But so we did pretty well. We're at about 350K, which is, less than we wanted, but still really good. The main purpose was we really wanted to give an option for our early community, right? So there's over 2,000 people sort of went through the process. A few dropped off in KYC. A few still haven't paid yet. So we're doing okay. We're comfortable with that. We are, of those 5 IDO platforms I talked about, we spoke to all of them. We went through the sort of contract process with them. We selected a couple. We're gone with 3. So two just didn't get through the process. And that wasn't their fault or our fault. It was just like, maybe it wasn't the right fit. They couldn't fit in their calendar at the time we wanted to go, that type of stuff. So Vent we've announced, Occam Razor we've announced. The third one, I can't technically announce because we're just waiting for like 1 or 2 details to happen on the contract. But once that's done, we'll announce really soon. And the sales kicking off, they're slightly different times, but it's like the 20th to
27th and 28th, I believe.
Yeah, so Vent running essentially they got a registration period which ran from sort of the 10th to the 16th, I think it was. Then they do a snapshot period where they just kind of look at what's going on. That runs through to the 21st. Then they're doing essentially the sale period's 24th. And that's Vent. Occam's doing a slightly different approach, and that's largely because we put a fair amount of pressure on them. We still have a lot of the community who don't necessarily want to use IDO platforms, but they want to take part in the sale, but they couldn't buy from us for the reasons I outlined before. So we've asked them to sell a section of that as what they call a GPS, which is a general purpose sale, which means that you don't actually have to be full on crazy on their platform. So they're sort of running 2 sales in parallel. So that's really good. So we're focused on that, right? So each of those IDO platforms has their own sort of way of doing things, marketing. They're asking us to give them the due diligence stuff. So doing all that stuff, generating all that content, that's kind of what we're doing on the sales side. So we're super excited about that, right? Because we did delay a couple of months because of platform and all that sort of stuff. So we're keen to get moving on that. I'll hand over to Karan. He can talk a little bit about the product platform side and what we've been doing there for the last couple of months.
Yep. Yeah. Before you do, I'd just like to understand how people can actually participate on Vent. Vent, it seems like the date app that we're at now, it's passed, so people can't get on that whitelist. But Occam is still possible for people to get on. And I'm not entirely sure because I haven't participated in an IDO and Occam before. But do I have to use Ethereum for that one?
Yeah. So Karan, I'll hand that over to you. That's an easy one for you.
Thanks for that. He was more involved in the whole process, but I'm not sure actually of the actual exact details that what currency. Liam can have a quick look at that. But yeah, the process for both of them, there's kind of, if you like, for the community sale for both of those platforms, and there's obviously a general sale as well. And usually for both platforms, there's a requirement obviously to either hold the token. So obviously Occam is on Cardano, so you have to be using the OCC if you're in the private sale, which is their token, and they've got some vesting. We've got 2 articles at the moment out on our Medium, so you can look at the details there. And Vent, yeah, they have a slightly different approach as well. So for instance, the private sales are usually about the kind of their token holders having it for a period of time and they can participate. But the GPS, I think the GPS rules, Liam, you don't actually have to hold any token, but you have to have a certain value of funds. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's my understanding. So we've just put out, we're filming videos at the moment, which will be like a really simple, like 1.5 minute video, how to do it for all the platforms. Karan did a how-to guide for Vent and Occam, and as he said, they're on our Medium, so go check them out. My understanding is, yeah, there's some requirement, not like you have to be totally signed up and hold X amount of their tokens, but there's some sort of liquidity requirement. But it'll be covered really clearly on that how-to guide if you just go through. So that's what I would suggest the guys to do. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll put out something on Twitter just to clarify that. But, you know, going back to your original question about different blockchains. Yeah, for us, I mean, we bought stables to Cardano, and I think we've talked about that enough, so I won't spend any time on that. But we initially partnered with NewFi, who, you know, kind of in a way, because like us, they were bootstrapped. Their code base was bootstrapped by Vacuum Labs. So they're kind of a sister company to us. You know, they're separate, but we work pretty closely together. So the reason we did that integration early on, right, they're the progression from ADA Lite. They're essentially a staking platform and wallet, and they're integrated to 11 blockchains, right? And the reason we did that is because ultimately we think this kind of multi-chain approach is where the market is going, right? Like obviously Cardano, we're big on Cardano, we're long on Cardano, but, you know, bring stables, that was the EVM piece, integration through Milkamita. We've got some other bridges that are sort of coming up online, and Karan, I know, is doing a lot of testing, so I'll hand that back to him. But yeah, we're giving people the opportunity to come in through a few different chains, right?
That's great.
Because we sort of think that, you know, one of the things that might hold Cardano back a little bit is if it's not integrated into other chains. So stable coins was one thing. The infrastructure piece is largely starting to get answered, right? By not only by us, but, you know, Sunday and MinSwap are in the market. There's more guys coming. That provides like plenty of opportunity and plenty of choice for market. But integrating into other blockchains, that's something that we think is going to become more and more frequent. And so we definitely want to be at the front of that technically. So, you know, it opens up new markets for us, opens up new potential customers, opens up greater liquidity for people using the platform. So there's a bunch of different reasons to do it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that extra liquidity coming in from other chains as they look for more opportunities to get some more investments in place. Are you seeing many people coming in from other chains asking questions?
There's a few, yeah. I mean, so I'm on the Discord quite a lot. We get, it's happening more now. We had some announcements go out when we announced Occam and Vent 2. And so Cointelegraph, News BTC, Bitcoin, there's a couple other guys have run articles around the sale. And so we're starting to see some more people starting to follow us from other blockchains. Yeah, like Twitter, starting to get a few sort of guys following us who aren't like pure Cardano people, a few people in Discord starting to ask questions. So it's starting to happen. I mean, it's not like, it wasn't like a huge wave. I think it probably would have been bigger if the market wasn't, you know, burning down.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, no, it's starting to happen. And I think that's a really good thing. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, so on Vent, it is actually USDC. So as I said, the public sale, there's 2 sales there. So there's the kind of their community sale, which is kind of like, it's not, I suppose you could call it a private sale. And you've got the public sale, obviously. That's their GPS, as they call it. But full information is obviously on our latest sort of Medium post 1 and 2.
Okay, great. It's I really found the friction of having to for myself, because I'm so Cardano centric. If I could use ADA for the sale, great, fantastic. But at least I'd be able to swap and trade some USDC and move my way in that way with the least amount of friction possible, I think, to be able to participate and get some of these tokens.
Yeah, I suppose on that note, again, I mean, Liam explained it kind of extensively. It was a matter really of sort of putting the community first and seeing what they wanted realistically.
Yeah.
And I mean, the process has been explained. But what I will say on that is really it's our move towards becoming a full-fledged kind of DAO as well, of going back to the community continuously, right from the get-go, realistically, through polls and later on in the pre-DAO voting, where we continuously ask the community what is it they want. And the latest feature actually is very interesting, which is the stake pool voting. You might be familiar with that before it was auto-staked in sort of predetermined pools that we had. And once that feature was enabled about a week ago or thereabouts, now every user, every kind of liquidity provider with ADA in a pool, they can vote for whichever stake pool they want. Obviously, it's got its own rules. That pool, it doesn't get sort of split into different kind of if you like, ADA staking pools, but the majority vote, and once that threshold for acceptance is passed, all those funds get staked into that. And probably moving into the next phases of the project, realistically, we're moving closer and closer to becoming this decentralized autonomous organization, and hence what we're talking about right today, which is about the IDOs, obviously, and the token generation event, which is related, which we'll talk about a lot more, obviously. But I'll let you ask your question, because we took over last time, so I'm very conscious of that.
I did have a look at the voting mechanism with the stake pools, and I think it's really cool. What I wanted to understand from that, since you're talking about it, how did the various stake pools get on the list to be voted for? Are they nominated somewhere? Like I'm trying to find the like my own stake pool here, like, but it doesn't magically appear. So obviously there's some filtering process on there.
We looked at the community. So we made a selection of sort of a random selection of smaller pools, right? And we're going to extend that as we go. For us, when we originally sort of put that post out around stake pool voting, we were actually a bit shocked, right? Because like a lot of the comments that we saw were like, why don't you just choose the same pools that everyone chooses, like all the big pools, right? Like as if like people thought the fix was in. Now it seems to have changed a little bit, right? Like it's just like, it's the same old whales, the same old VCs, right? It's a little bit of like a mantra that happens a bit, not just in Cardano, everywhere, right? So we're gonna formalize that process as we move forward more, right? And set up a way that people can nominate, and hopefully we'll probably put it on the blockchain so it's really transparent. But at the moment, we just did a random selection. I can't really comment on it, but I'd have to talk to the dev team. But I'll come back to you and put a comment on this video once it goes live, just so people understand. But from my perspective, I mean, we really want to decentralize, but in the way that, like, not the hype term, like the real term. So, when we spoke to you before, even before we did the last podcast, right, we talked about batches, right? Agents, we call them, and them essentially being that being a function that won't be a community. That's still definitely very much on our roadmap, right? Stake pool voting is another piece, right? Moving towards the DAO. For us, we really want this to be decentralized, right? We really don't want to be sitting here being like, oh, well, yeah, it's decentralized, but we're still essentially a centralized exchange, right? That's not where we want to be. So for us, this is like it's a fairly significant step on that path to decentralization, stake pool voting. We'll open that up more and more. Obviously, there's a little bit of like smart contracts work that had to be done at the back end for us to enable that function. We'll talk about it more in a tech update, I would imagine, as the dev team sort of come through on that. But yeah, I mean, for us, it's essentially putting our money where our mouth is, right? Yeah,
but that's it. That's the easy stuff for you guys, right? So you can whip that up over a weekend. It's
yeah. Well, I mean,
the dev team can do that. Definitely.
Without naming names, if you're across lots of stuff, you might have seen that another audit came out recently.
Oh, really?
For a platform, not for us. or different platform, and they had like 7 significant or serious and like 1 critical, but like they got through it, and you're like, yeah, okay, all right. You know, anything that had 7 serious issues on it, I'd be like, did they fix all those?
I hope so.
Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of I'm sure you can bang that code out pretty quick, but it's the testing and making sure it works that takes a little bit of time.
And the security,
Yeah, most definitely. I do like the various stake pools that are actually on the list. There are a couple of interesting ones on there. Like there's an ISPO pool that's on the list, but the rest of the pools are actually really good, small, good operators in the community. So a lot of them are, decent pools that to be on the list to be voted for. So that's a good approach. Now, you also mentioned a little bit earlier there, Liam, the agents as well. And I know eventually you want to move the agents to a decentralized setup too. Has that process progressed at all yet?
We're sort of like, we're about, from our original roadmap, we're sort of a quarter behind, right? So originally we talked about doing the sale in Q1, then the card starter thing took place. So then we had to sort of figure out what we're doing. So this gets us to Q2. That development was sort of originally, I think, on the roadmap end of Q2, Q3. So now it's probably pushed a couple of months just on the back of that, right? Because we had to figure out how we're doing token distribution for the direct sale and do all that. So we had to build that part of the code base as well. But yeah, it's definitely on the roadmap. It's definitely coming. We still feel really strongly about it. That's one of our core visions, right? And our tech team's really focused on the decentralization piece. We're all super passionate, but those guys are like at the pointy end, right? Privacy, decentralization, all of that, right? They think code is beautiful.
Excellent. Now, Karan, you were about to talk a little bit more about the token generation event and when that's all going to happen. And, after we're going through all these sales, when we're actually going to see our tokens and our wallets, etc. Can you fill us in with the details around that?
I think before I go on to that point, I think it's important. We're talking a lot about decentralization here. We're talking about, token generation. And I think it's important to highlight that we were very determined right from the get-go to actually launch a working app that people, or DApp, I should say, that people can actually come on and test and look at and experiment with and say, well, is this some project that I really want to get involved in? Is this something that I actually want to go for the token? Which is, again, kind of quite contradictory to what happens usually in the crypto world, where people go and launch a token and they raise it, right? So we're going to ask a question.
Yeah, you guys got criticized for launching a DEX and yield farming with no tokens.
Absolutely.
You can't win either way, can you?
No, you can't, because this is a status quo.
We don't have a platform. That's the other end of that.
Right. Because that's what you're used to. I mean, as humans, we're used to seeing this model with thousands of projects launching with a white paper and saying, come on, this is a token generation event. And most of the people who, I suppose, and I'm not being, unkind here, they're going to such events without really understanding, even reading the white paper. What they're actually buying into is buying into speculation of a hope that you're in a bull market and they see the whole market going up. They go, I'm going to buy this token for 1 penny, and then it's going to go to 10 pennies or cents or whatever currency you like to use. And that's really the only reason. But if you think about it, would you go into a shop and say, yeah, I'm going to put some money down on this product that I have no clue about, but I kind of have an idea of what it might do. It's like a hearing piece or whatever.
The packaging's nice.
The packaging's nice. You don't do that. So that's really the ethos behind it. And we talked about decentralization a lot, and I am going to talk a little bit more about kind of moving towards the DAO, because the token is completely related to that. So for instance, you mentioned farming without a token. Well, it's not exactly like that. It's like an IOU of a token when you're actually farming, and you will get that. There's obviously different kind of vesting schedules, and the reason really there is this kind of if you like this kind of vesting available is that you don't want to get a token dump, right? Because of the very fact that I just mentioned, that you have, unfortunately, sort of speculators that come and buy the tokens, and the only reason they're buying it is for appreciation in price. So this is available, and again, just read the docs, because for the different types of activities, there is different types of sort of releases, but they're not long-term releases,
talk
right?
about it really, really quickly, right? So basically, for everyone who's been farming, if you have less than 2,000 WRT, you'll get them at TGE, right? If you have more than 2,000, we're going to just vest them a little bit, right? So they'll just stagger out. I think from the blog, it's been a while since I wrote it, but I think it was 6 to 8 weeks after the TGE. Doesn't matter how many tokens you've farmed, you have them all, right? Just to stagger that out a little bit. So that's that piece. The other piece is really right now the TGE looks like it'll be mid-July, right? And the reason I'm not giving you an exact date is because we've still got that third IDO platform partner. That the contract's pretty much in place. We're just figuring out the dates with them. Obviously, we're going to do the TGE right after they close their sale, right? Yeah. So if we went on Occam Razor and we went on Meld, Vent would be like first week of July. So we've just given ourselves a buffer. So, middle of July, we're very confident that with a date, we understand that some people have been waiting a while. So we don't want to get that shade thrown at us. So yeah, feel confident around that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And we talked about the token a lot. Okay, I mean, what does it actually do? And I think that's really important to talk about as well. What are you actually buying into, if you like? It's a governance token, but it's also a utility token, right? And again, that kind of the governance part obviously clicks back into the DAO and what it does in the DAO. So essentially, the beauty, and I think it's a very powerful concept that crypto has developed, these decentralized autonomous organizations run by members, not boards, not a centralized kind of authority, but the people who actually own it. Obviously, there's criteria of kind of, how many tokens you have to have before you can actually go and vote, and what, the kind of, whether they're staked or not, and what kind of proposals you can give. But that's the role of the token in terms of governance. It can give you rights to vote on proposals. You can actually come up with proposals, put it to obviously the rest of the DAO members, and they can all vote on that proposal. Obviously, those proposals have to be within reason. It have to be within capabilities in terms of technology. They have to obviously be in terms of kind of legal and regulatory kind of facets, valid before they can be kind of taken up for a vote. And obviously, there'll be different types of votes, from sort of much more sort of UI and UX, which aren't really kind of as important as, say, treasury management, or, for instance, hires and et cetera, et cetera. But realistically, it's a very powerful concept. And, when I think about it sometimes, and the kind of universe, if you like, or the world we live in, we're really moving into a really democratic era if the regulators obviously kind of ease off and try to understand what this is all about. It's a democratized organization run by its members who hold, in our case, the WRT token. And I think that's a really, really powerful concept. The other side is obviously the utility of the token, right? Yeah. I'm not going to allow you. No, Liam.
let me just do really quickly the 5 parameters of the votes, and then I'll give you back.
Go ahead.
So broadly, you can go. We updated the website about a week ago with all the utility about WRT. So anyone who wants to read further, feel free to go to the page wingriders.com/WRT. But the 5 parameters that we'll be voting on, obviously, is protocol parameters, the platform, which features get added next, upgrading of modular smart contracts, fee parameters for the platform. So yes, you can potentially vote to reduce the fees. Obviously, we're not going to let you reduce them to 0 because that makes the platform non-viable long term. Selecting what farms would be enabled in their reward allocation. That's also going to be voted on, right? There's other things, but those are the main 5. I'll hand back to Karan to do the utility piece.
Yeah, no, absolutely. These are definitely some of the core kind of areas that the votes can be taken on. But essentially, every aspect of running this DAO will be open to discussion by the members, for the members, if you like. And obviously the executing dev team that's in place, they will execute within obviously the parameters of capabilities. Now, the utility of the token is obviously very important. So what value does it have? We talked about batches, we talked about the agents, obviously. This will be a currency in their terms where they have to put collateral in WRT. And this is very important about sort of tokenomics again, of the fact that those tokens tokens will be locked in some way. And again, it leads to, if you like, the kind of deflationary kind of aspects of a token that you want. Also, there'll be a dedicated farm, for instance, for WRT itself, where you can generate more rewards. And that's also going to be a big feature of it. You can, for instance, buy NFTs and FTs, right, at a discounted rate. You can get access to, for instance, more privileged information, in terms of maybe site statistics and, other areas of kind of the decision making of the DAO by being a kind of holder of DAO, so you get access, and obviously things like the discounts on merch and other good areas. So there'll be a lot of utility attached to it, but also it holds a very powerful kind of functionality, which is the governance functionality.
Yeah, and just on that, it's worth mentioning that we're looking at like a lot of double yield opportunities that we're going to be doing on some pools. We're looking at, technically farming WRT is now triple yields, right? So you're earning the WRT, then you farm them, then that's triple yields. Holding WRT will get you probably higher yields, right?
Yep.
In a band allocation section. And then in terms of airdrops, FTs, so we gave out a set of FTs. People call them NFTs, but essentially there's bronze, silver, gold, like the early rider FTs, right?
Limited series. Yep.
Limited series. So we're going to do that more, right? There's other characters. There's our main rider character that everyone knows that's on our marketing, but there's a whole bunch of other characters, his sidekicks and stuff, right? We'll bring those guys out. They will have some functionality and they will also help, right? And to access those, if you're holding more WRT, you'll get first preference. The other important thing to really note is some people don't really seem to pay attention to this, and it gets a little bit frustrating sometimes, but it's really important to look at the total token allocation, like the total amount of tokens.
Yep.
We're either 1/20th or 1/50th the size of some of the other DEXs, right? As we open up agents to the public, all of that collateral will only be WRT. Right. So if you imagine a situation where we had $200 million on the platform, which is not that far away, right? If a significant amount of that was going through agents, right, like a significant number of the swaps were getting done through the agent community rather than our agents or big whales, then there's going to be a lot of those tokens locked up, right? If it's $200 million, I don't know, I haven't seen the ratios, but let's assume that there's $75 million locked up in collateral, right? $75 million worth of WRT right now would be pretty much all the WRT, right? So that process alone is going to lock up a large amount of the tokens. If you want to become an agent, you're going to have to hold them.
Right. Okay.
So essentially, it's very deflationary in many ways, right?
Yeah.
The monetary policy is very solid.
Okay. So just to be clear, if I wanted to be an agent for WingRiders, I would have to have a certain amount of WRT tokens locked up in my agent that is running for the platform.
Yeah, we essentially,
Absolutely.
51% attacks and, bad actors, right? We've got to protect against them, and that's the simplest mechanism for us to do that.
Right, gotcha. Okay, well, that's absolutely fantastic. And Grant, you're also saying discounts for various things, and of course merch as well, which I'm all for. So anything around that is absolutely fantastic. So that's really interesting mechanism there. It's unique. I don't think anyone else is doing that for their agents batches to have tokens locked in place to avoid those bad actors. Yeah.
Yeah, ultimately you have to sort of have some mechanism built to essentially protect against that, right? Because if you make anyone who designs a game or designs anything in crypto, right, like equally the same number of people who will spend the amount of time to break the game will find a loophole, right? That's just the industry we're in, right? So the simplest way is to have agents stake collateral, and the easiest way to do that is with WRT.
Absolutely fantastic. Okay. Was there anything other things in regards to utility that were coming into play, or was everything covered off the list?
I think we checked off most of them. Yeah.
I think we've hit them all. There'll be, you talked about merch, so that's one part, but there'll also be, we're going to really try and incentivize some educational stuff, We recently launched like another part of the company is WingRiders Academy, right? So that's going to be a bit more of a focus on educational stuff, what's going on in Cardano. You know, Karan's done some really good work. We did a medium 2 weeks ago around stable coins, all the different types of stable coins, you know, how they work, what they're like. So there'll be much more of that. And definitely by holding tokens, you'll get early access to that. And if we do in-person community events, those sorts of things, we're definitely going to prioritize WRT holders, obviously. So yeah, there'll be a little bit around that. I think there's 10 listed on the website, 10 utilities for the token. So anyone who we did run through them, I think we hit them all. But if anyone wants to know more, it's on that same page, wingriders.com/WRT.
Awesome. Okay. I'll put all of those things into the show notes for the video so everyone can find out a little bit more, so they can read up on all that information, all the utility and all these particular key dates, and actually how to participate in the IDOs on all these platforms, and this mysterious third one, which you can't tell me about just yet either.
It's a big one.
It's very soon. Yeah, it's a big one and imminent incoming. But yeah, I mean, please check out the Medium post, because the details there, you know, in the sense of trying to be totally accurate, it's best, you know, if you want to participate in one of them, have a look at it, look at the rules. And as kind of Liam pointed out earlier on, that if you've kind of been excluded from the whitelist due to the country restrictions, what you can do is obviously have a look at those other IDO platforms and have a look to see if perhaps that country that you're in is obviously open for participation. I think that's a useful thing to do as well.
I mean, the other thing is we have got this up on the website, but please do post it. It's also worth mentioning, since last time, the other thing we did is we upgraded the majority of the rewards on our farms. We put out a blog, I think it was last week, maybe the week before. It all starting to blur together. Lead after the TGEs, a little bit burning the candle on both ends. But we did put out, we upped a bunch of the tokens, and we also trying to like really incentivize people to bring their liquidity over. If they come over and they drive up liquidity on a few of these other pools, there's other bonuses that can be unlocked. So definitely, if you're trying to stack your sats in a bad market, come over and put your Cardano to work.
Absolutely awesome. Yeah, Karan?
No, I was going to say, you know, it is actually, I think it's, we have to definitely talk about the current situation that we're in. And for those of us who've seen one cycle or seen two, or those of the really old school have seen three of them, you know, this is cyclical. But obviously, you know, macro conditions at the moment economically are very different to sort of 2018, where you've got kind of a global recession definitely coming in. You know, anticipate perhaps a longer kind of, you know, nuclear winter, but we will get out of this and we will get back to kind of better times in terms of, if you like, the growth of the overall market, but it is tied to the macro conditions as well. But, you know, this is not financial advice in any way, but this is a good time to start really looking at projects like ours and really look at kind of the value that they offer and start accumulating kind of those governance tokens into your the various wallets and wait. And, you know, there's no rush. Wait, because the projects that will survive this will be the best projects, you know, in that kind of steep, if you like, bull market as well.
Yeah, we've seen this in previous, like the last crypto winter that we went through, and all the projects that were building through that time. People that accumulated tokens, like Uniswap, for example, is a really good example. They launched in DeFi summer and, you know, exploded during that last bull run. And people that cashed out at that point did really, really well. And that's what drew me into Cardano, building their DEXs and their whole new DeFi stream that was coming through during that last bull run that attracted me to it so much. There was so much more potential there for growth. And, you know, just seeing you guys develop these things and other projects develop things as well, collecting the tokens at the moment, I think is by far the best thing you can do, especially if, you know, everything else is red. Yeah. Capitulation, hopefully. Yeah. We're still holding at 20 on BTC. So if it breaks low, do not fear. Just keep holding it by WRT. That's my motto.
I mean, ultimately, always, as with everything in the crypto space, right? There's three caveats, right? DYOR, do your own research. Two, you know, always keep your private keys. And 3, like just hold, like in bad markets, hold, right? That's what you do. Hodl, right? You just got to hold.
Hodl,
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right. Absolutely brilliant, guys. Thank you so much for joining me again and giving a full update in regards to what's happening with the IDO process, your whitelist, how that's gone, and some of these really cool updates in regards to the platform as well. It's always awesome hearing from the horse's mouth to understand exactly what's going on with it.
I think you just
Thank you as usual, Pete, for having us, mate. Who's the horse?
I think that's probably me, to be honest. All right. Thanks very much, man. Pete, really appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Yeah, as usual. Love the show. Thank you very much,
Cheers,
Pete.
buddy.
Take care.
So thank you, Liam and Karan, for joining me on the episode. It's always a pleasure having you guys on. Conversation just flows. It's really easy to have you guys on for these interviews. Now, if you guys want to find out more about the IDO sales, links down below. You can find everything on the Learn Cardano website. You can find all the reference links and all the IDO platforms where you can go through and start looking into and setting up your accounts to go through this IDO sale as well. So you can find all the links on our website. Now, if you really enjoyed this content, please consider giving me that thumbs up, click subscribe, click on that notification bell, and you hear more great Cardano content from me soon. I did have to take a break. That pace that I was going at, producing one video a day, an interview a day, was really taxing. I really did burn out, but I'm slowly getting back into the swing of things. Hopefully I can keep up a more sustainable process of producing the videos and keep engaging with you guys. Okay, see you in the next video.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast. Gotta get it hype. Crypto is what we like, but this is not investment or financial advice. Gotta do your research, cause it's risky. We know it is. This show is educational and it's informative. Crypto's the future, really, it ain't no debate.